Hi everyone, so it's week 14 now, that means it's time for another update. Let's get into it. So, since the last video, I've been on a lovely holiday. Where, may you ask? I've been in the sunny part of the world called the Caribbean. I have been on a lovely, luxurious cruise run by Virgin, which means that it's a little bit different. You have to see it to believe it, basically. Words can't describe it. It was an amazing fun. But this isn't a holiday blog. This is a fitness blog. So let's talk about the fitness. In the last video, I was saying I was focusing on running and I started making inroads on that. Well, I've continued that on. Being a holiday and being a very special treat, I'm not going to prioritize it over everything else. So I was doing enough to keep things going, but I wasn't trying to push myself to new personal bests. Whilst I was on the cruise, there was a indoor gym. There was a running track around the outside of the ship, which was great. I did do an upload onto Strava, and it also tracked the movement of the ship whilst I was doing laps of it. And yeah, basically it just gave me a ridiculously fast speed. So I said turn to counting laps. But I don't know if you knew, but the Caribbean's a really hot place. That was really difficult to train in. So being in the sun with no shade meant I was only able to about 5, 6, 7K before I said, no, that's enough. I feel really lightheaded. I did do a couple of runs around the island because I love to run when I'm on holiday, not because I'm just a fitness freak, far from that. I like to do it to see the areas, to explore the places and get my bearings around the site. So that was fantastic. When it was too sunny, though, I went inside to the indoor gym where it's air conditioned and I was able to do a treadmill run. And I have to say, the treadmill run was something that felt like I was a newbie again on it because I hadn't done it for so long. Yes, I knew what I was doing and how to press the buttons, etc. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that it does the pace for you. You set a pace and then you just stick to it, and it does all the thinking for you. I don't need to keep looking at my watch. I can just go into autopilot mode, do the hard work, and it will do the pacing for me, and that was really good. So something I think I might carry forwards. My long runs are still only about 11, 12K at the moment, quite far from the 42K that I'm going to need to be ready for the Brighton. But, I'm doing what I can at what my body is telling me is right. I'm feeling like I'm really in tune with it. I'm aware of the 10% rule where you increase your volume by 10% each week. Don't try and do more than that. You end up getting injured. I am doing a little bit more than that, but I'm listening to my body first, and my body is telling me that's okay. My brother's been doing really well with his training. There's not going to be a competition between us. We never set out like that, but it's good to see him, reaping the rewards for his hard efforts. So I'm sure he's going to have a terrific race day. Speaking of races, I think it's important when you're having a race to have a strategy as well. Thinking about my race for the triathlon, it's important to be aware of everything because it's such a long day. Anything can happen. You just need to plan things out to go through the process mentally. What I like to do to prepare my strategy is to first off do a recce of the route. I want to know if it's a swim, if it's going to be a sea swim or a open water swim like a lake, or if it's going to be a pool swim. If it's a pool swim, you've got the turns, or you might be a little bit quicker and it won't be a wetsuit. If it's a lake, you don't have to worry about tides or anything, but if it's a sea, you might have to worry about that. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a wetsuit one. It is going to be. I've looked at the averages for the weather, and it's going to be wetsuit. So that gives you a little bit extra buoyancy. Talking about the bike, there's lots you can learn about the bike. You want to look at the elevation profile of it, see how many climbs there are. I should also caveat all of this by saying that I haven't got the race plan for the 2024 race. I'm going by the Runner Show 2023. They normally don't release their final details until like a week before the actual event because there's so many moving parts to organising one of these things. Going back onto the elevation, I want to know if it's quite punchy, is it quite a lot of steep, aggressive hills that I need to be aware of, or is it more like undulating hills? Knowing Cambridgeshire, it's going to be quite undulating, and the elevation profile from last year just reflects that as well. It's 1,100 metres incline over 880 kilometres, so yes, some inclines, but nothing that's Tour de France people are going to get jealous about, that's for sure. Also, is it going to be on open roads or on closed roads? That means you need to think about junctions. So on open roads, you also might have to negotiate with traffic, which might not be in some people's comfort zones. For the Odyssey, I am going to be on open roads. I'm not going to be on closed roads. There's a couple of junctions along the route where I'm going to have to put my foot down. It's mandatory. It's a safety thing. Can't ignore it. Let's not get disqualified, What is the route? This one is going to be a star shape. That's good and bad for several reasons. It's good because it means that I'm definitely going to get a tailwind along one of those legs. It's good because the spectators, I'm going to be passing them 6 times, and that's including the aid station as well, so I can refuel. So that'll be really good boost. And for a spectator, is often you don't really see the people that you're there to spectate. You see them once for a second. It's not a very big entertaining factor for them. So for me to be able to pass 6 times actually makes it a bit more appealing and a bit more of an easy sell. That also means headwinds and tailwinds, but it also does mean crosswinds. And I've got quite deep rim wheels. If you refer back to my bike video, I've got 80 mil on the back and 40 mils on the front, deep rim wheels. So my bike turns into a sail. So if I've got a crosswind, I can be pushed across the road. Open roads as well, so there could be a risk factor there. I like to think things will be managed well, but I'm going to have experience by then to how to manage on open roads anyway. So yeah, something to think about. And then with the run is going to be 7. I don't want to again know about the elevation. Is it going to be a punchy one? No, it's not. For me, it's Cambridgeshire. It's a run in an open park, so that means I know what kind of terrain I'm going to be running on. Probably going to be tarmac 9 times out of 10. I haven't done Google Maps on it, but I believe it's going to be footpaths, tarmac footpaths. So therefore, I can be fine with my normal shoes. I won't need trail shoes or anything like that. Again, passing spectators 6 times and also aid station 6 times. So that kind of gives me an understanding of what I'll need to carry for the race. In terms of pacing, that's a very big part of the strategy. The bike course for this race has a cutoff at 4:30 p.m. I'm very worried about that. I'm worried that if I have a bad race day, that I'm going to be really far behind and not make that cutoff, and therefore I just get a DNF on it. So that's not great. I've done my target times of what I've been hitting in training, and I think it's important as well to just talk on that. So I mentioned in the previous video my critical swim speed, CSS. That is based in a pool, so I'm doing turns and I'm not in a wetsuit. So if I'm doing turns, I get a little speed boost from that, and therefore if I'm in open water, I don't get that, therefore I'll be a little bit slower. There's also more people around me, so maybe I'll get some hydrodynamic efficiencies, less drag, if I'm able to stay with the pack. I'm also wearing a wetsuit, so more buoyancy. So overall, taking this in, you generally go slower in open water. That's the rule of thumb. How much slower is very variable. So I can't say what that'll be like, but I need to just manage my expectations that I'm not going to be hitting that. Also, the CSS, I think, just to get a little bit nuanced with it, that time is how quickly you could hold that pace for 1,500 meters. I'm doing 3,800 meters, so fatigue will be a bigger factor for that. In terms of bike, I've been using Power, but Power is great for training, not for race day. When I spoke to my coach, I've was told that heart rate is much better feel, and think about your cadence as well. Try and stick to 85 RPM. That's a magic number, and then you'll be able to work out what your gears are, and that'll give you enough energy stores for the run later on. Because if you cook yourself on the bike, you're not going to be able to run. Yeah, the run is at the end of the day, and if you haven't done your nutrition right, you have cooked yourself too much on the bike, then you're not going to be able to get around. Speaking of nutrition, my fueling plan says that I need 40 energy gels. 40. That's a lot. To kind of bring that number down a little bit, I'm going to have some solid food in transition when I'm going from the swim to the bike. I'm not going to do it from the bike to the run transition because I'll be moving around a lot, so my stomach might get a bit unsettled. I'm just going to do it for that first transition. 40 is a lot, and I'm glad that I'm doing that training early on to make sure that my stomach is able to handle that. So I'm doing the run at the end, and that's a little bit difficult to predict because your body hasn't been pushed to that level before. You could be at 10, 12 hours at this point, and you've got to do a marathon. It's going to be a very, very hard one to do. Your body's probably going to want to give up. So that's why bike is so important, to make sure you have the right efficiency and make sure you don't have any imbalances that could then flare up for the running leg. Go a bit more into detail on that, probably on the eve of race day. But for now, those are kind of just the high level topics that I'm going to be thinking about for my strategy to make sure that I don't have any hiccups on race day and how I can manage my expectations to have the best day I can. So that's it for this week. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.